I was seeing a guy, I ended it. I was only seeing him for like a couple of months, something like that, not that long. He kept messaging me, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to block this guy. So then I blocked him, and then literally 2 minutes later, I start getting calls from no caller ID. And I'm not kidding you, he would ring, and then it would stop ringing, and then he would literally start ringing again, like 2 seconds later. Like, it was just constant like this for maybe like half an hour or so, which is the time it takes to drive from Salford to Warrington, where I live. I hear a knock on the door. So like I look through the window of the door and it's him. He stood there. Then he goes to his car and like pretends to rev his car engine. So I think he's left. So I come out and I'm like looking at the window and he's like, I knew you were in.
No,
and then
I'm not being funny. That's not an attachment style, guys. That's a
just
serial killer.
Someone insane. That's just someone insane, I think.
Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Trauma Agora. It's so good to have you all here. My name is Emily. I am joined by, of course, Jake and Nina. We are a little throuple hosting thing. I don't even know what we are, but we're just hosting together as a three. It's going to be so much fun to have a conversation with you all about our deepest, darkest traumas. Hooray! I am just going to kick off with the kind of general topic of our first episode, which is going to be all about attachment styles. But I wanted to make sure that we did the rounds and introduced ourselves first. So I'm Emily, as I said. I am 28 years old. I live in the Midlands in the UK. I have a very barky dog who we're trying our best to make sure doesn't feature in the background of my audio today. But I have been a podcast producer, but in terms of my personal background, I am in a very happy relationship, which I bring as a big luxury, I think, to these conversations. And I'm just looking forward to getting into our deep dives around relationships and kind of how we come to be who we are, how we develop and communicate and just exist with each other, with a sprinkling of, philosophical input as well. So it's going to be a really good conversation. I will pass over to Jake next to kind of intro. Who the hell are you, Jake?
I didn't even know. That's why I'm on the podcast. I'm Jake. I'm 26. I'm from the Liverpool area and I'm living in Lisbon at the moment. So I'm here to intellectualize my trauma and why I've moved away. And me and Nina can share this experience because at the moment there's a trifecta of Portuguese, Spanish, English on the podcast. But yeah, hopefully I can add a bit of random Marcus Aurelius quotes to make it a bit more philosophical. Yeah, obviously we all work in the podcast industry, so if it's bad, then we're bad at odd jobs. But hopefully we're not. So we'll see what the output is. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm sure the rest of the conversation will help explain who I am a bit more. But I'll pass to you, Trauma Nina.
Thanks, Trauma Jake. Just to clarify from Emily's intro, we are not a throuple.
I glossed over that bit actually.
Just to get that out of the way so the viewers aren't confused about the nature of our relationship. Jake,
Nina, I'm highly offended. I thought this was what this was. But
Please say it was a healthy, loving relationship. I thought you meant the throuple, not you and your boyfriend.
One day. But Jake sort of addressed the elephant in the room of how we all know each other, which is we all work together in podcast production. Hence, here we are. But a little bit about me. So I'm Nina. I'm 29, which I think makes me the oldest one here, which is very depressing. Oh my God.
It's traumatizing in itself.
Traumatizing moment there. I don't know why I've just realized that. I'm from Warrington in the UK, just near Manchester, but I'm currently living in Spain. Hence, we have all of our different languages. So if you hear me randomly saying things in Spanish, don't be alarmed. There's not a random Spanish man on our podcast. It's me.
Man.
Woman. I don't know why I call myself a man. Anyway.
That's the next episode.
That's next episode, me having an identity crisis. Yeah, we're here to talk about attachment styles. So, addressing a bit of the elephant in the room with all of our own attachment styles, I think me and Jake are both anxious, but Emily is kind of a little bit of a mix of both. Correct me if I'm wrong, Emily. Anxious / potentially a
Yeah.
bit of avoidant.
Yeah, I think so. There's a bit of debate about whether it's anxious avoidant or if it's fearful or if it's disorganized. All of the above. I'm quite happy with that. So yeah, all of the
I'm
above.
fearful and disorganized, so
Just yeah,
I
a bit
fit
of
that bill.
everything.
We went very far and wide to grab a big selection of the population and got three insecure attached to talk
Yeah,
about attachment
not a
styles.
secure attachment in sight, to be honest. Not a secure attachment to be seen. So we'll kick off with the secure attachment, just to give you a bit of a bio on that, because I think it's important. Not that any secure attachments exist on this podcast today, but we do need to understand what it is to provide a little bit of a comparison point. So your securely attached people will be those who are comfortable with closeness and independence, so they don't feel lost when they haven't got those loved ones around them. They are basically comfortable in all environments. They trust easily. They're very good with open communication, and their relationships ultimately feel very kind of balanced, stable, kind of well put together. So your secure attachment is, of course, what everybody would love to aim for. But sadly isn't always accessible to everyone, which is why you've got these variations. So Jake, if you want to give us what an anxious attachment kind of bio would be.
Yeah. So not straying from my LinkedIn profile. Anxious attachment is, as you explained, Emily, it's a balance between independence and intimacy. And where anxious people get this skewed on the scale is they lean too much into intimacy and not enough into independence. Obviously, you can go to the whole background, the reason why they do that. But in a relationship, an anxious person relies on their partner to help regulate their emotions. So they feel safe, they feel secure in who they are, but that's from a different person, someone who's outside of them. So if you have an anxious person in a relationship, you might have people who are worried that they're not getting a text back in 2 hours, or their partner isn't giving them the right facial expression. I mean, this isn't from my experience, but they won't be given like just the right slight tonal shifts, where anxious people are so attuned to this that they anticipate that, oh, they might be leaving me, therefore I need to fight to keep them in this relationship. But again, because there's no sense of independence, they've adapted to relying on a different person. Hence why there's so much anxiety, because as we know, we don't control other people, especially in a relationship.
Nina, do you want to go for avoidance?
Yeah. Um, Basically a summary of all of my exes combined. For sure.
A safe space.
Avoidance. Yeah, it's a safe space here. So avoidance are basically the opposite of me and Jake being anxious, that they very much value independence and they always try and avoid kind of, not always, but often try and avoid any kind of emotional closeness. They might appear very emotionally distant. Um what they might often do is like keep their partners at arm's length. So these are the attachment types that might be very intense in the beginning, like a little bit of like love bombing. And then when they get to that place where they're too close, then they feel that need to create distance and move away a little bit, because they don't want to be vulnerable. So yes, they often struggle to communicate that. So where the anxious person will respond, like say in an argument, the anxious person will respond with trying to get closer. The avoidant person will respond with trying to get further away and creating space in lots of different ways, like not even just physical space and not replying, but it could be like mental space in the things they say, even like insulting their partner, like that kind of thing. All puts like distance between them. So that's avoidant. And then Emily, do you want to talk about the disorganized attachment? Your one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
All right.
bit a little bit close to home attachment style. Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, disorganized slash fearful slash anxious avoidant. It depends what you want to call it, but basically it's a total mess, guys. There's no there's no consistent behavior here. There's a mix of anxious and avoidant traits. It's all very kind of push pull. It's a bit messy. is what I'm trying to say. There's kind of that come close, stay close, I want intimacy, I want support, matched exactly with, nope, I'm fine, leave me alone, get away from me, you're too close, you're too much, which can be incredibly distressing for, say, for example, somebody who is a secure attachment person in a relationship, say, with a disorganized attachment person. So it's it's an incredibly kind of chaotic space. The difficulty with this particular attachment style is that it's never predictable, and it's never kind of going to be something that I think is fully overcome, because you might overcome one element of your attachment style but still have the remains of the other kind of half. So yeah, all 4 of these attachment styles are what we want to talk about today, and how they kind of impact all 3 of us, but how we can maybe offer some advice around moving through difficulties with certain kind of attachment style combinations and personality traits that follow with that.
What I'd say is, with the split of secure attachments and insecure attachments, it's debated, it depends on the survey, but it could be around 52% are secure. So you still have half of the population are secure, but you have the other half of the population which aren't. And you sort of mentioned before, Emily, where you were saying if you have a secure person with a disorganized person, that might not necessarily work out. Even if you have a secure anchor, if they're constantly being tested by the person who is struggling with their own safeness in their own emotions, then it's still going to strain a relationship. And then what you were saying, Nina, about an anxious and avoidant sort of becoming a bit of a dance. So there's a book from Jessica Baum called Anxiously Attached. It talks about her divorce with her husband. She was anxiously attached in that relationship. He was avoidant. And she explained how it's a literal dance of when an anxious person reaches out, an avoidant person gets triggered and pulls away. So both senses, they're both feeling unsafe emotionally. So then they react to what they're familiar with, which is, I'm going to withdraw to my safe independence, or I'm going to reach out to my safety in someone else. And it will literally become like a dance. And as you can see by the tone of Nina and maybe myself towards our past partners, it doesn't feel great to be in either sense of either being the anxious person or the avoidant person. But a final point is, obviously we're not attachment theory experts. The whole point of this conversation is, oh, I didn't think about myself as being maybe more avoidant leaning or anxious leaning, or, oh, I am secure, but my partner may be slightly insecure. It's just about developing a bit of awareness around it and having a bit of compassion for people who are feeling these things. Because if you look at the biological roots of attachment theory, they form between the ages of 0 and 2. So way before we have any conscious reaction. And that's based on how our parents attuned to our needs when we were younger. So if you're an anxious person, you might have some attunement from your parent, which means they gave you the love and the need that you needed at one point, but then other times they weren't available. So, or they were only available if you presented certain behaviors. So, for example, if you use me, Nina, and Emily, oh, if I'm a good girl or a good boy, then I will receive love. So that translates as from an unconscious reaction to when we're in our mid-20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, when I'm in a relationship, oh, I only feel loved once I earn it, i.e., once I present a certain version of myself which will receive love, which is inauthentic, it's exhausting, and then you're also, again, just reaching out and trying to pull someone in to make you feel safe emotionally. So there's obviously a lot of things going on. It's a huge unconscious mechanism inside of us. And the whole point of the podcast, or this episode specifically, is just to bring a bit of awareness and compassion around it, because that's always the first step. Like, if we're anxious, it's obviously easy to feel empathy for us, but if you're an avoidant, it might not be easy to feel empathy for them, because it just feels like, why are they being so distant? If they're supposed to love me, why are they, not to make it personal, I guess it's Trauma Agora, why would they move country twice? Move once, I go with them, and then they move again. And I was like, right, that's enough for me. I've had enough. But yeah, again, it could be physical distance. It could be mental, emotional space.
Absolutely not getting personal there, Jake.
No,
Love it.
it's a friend of a friend, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says from his
You don't know
lovely
her.
Portuguese apartment with a nice echo.
Yeah, there's one benefit to running away from your problems. Is yeah, I actually did the same in the end.
So, bringing it to the title of this episode, which is Can Attachment Styles Ever Change? So, I feel like we're all a bit hopeful in this regard, like all of us here. Well, I don't know, maybe I'm just talking for myself there. But
Yes.
oh, sorry, my bad. But I feel hopeful that they can change because I feel like I have changed mine a little bit over time. And something that I've realized is that it really depends who you're with. And I didn't really think about this for a long time. And I think that's so tough because being anxiously attached, I think you can blame yourself a lot and you can always think, what can I do differently? There's a lot of content around attachment styles of like, you're anxiously attached. Here's what you need to change. You need to emotionally regulate. You need to do this. You need to do that. And it took me a while to realize that if I was experiencing like out of my body anxiety, like literally I had an ex where thankfully we only dated for a few months, but whenever I was not physically around him, which is very, very common for anxious attachment, whenever I was not physically around him, I would just get so anxious. And he was away on holiday with his friends. And I remember like physically shaking. And my friend was like, Nina, I've never seen you like this she'd known me for like 10 years. She was like, I've never seen you like this. Like, this is ridiculous. And so I often think our body knows also when we're not with the right person. And I think he was avoidant. So I think that really brought out like the worst in me and the worst of my anxious attachment. And he had not really done the work and he was not really recognizing it either. So I think it would be different if he kind of was aware of it. But yeah, that's what I would say as well, is that they definitely can change over time. I think I've done some work to be more secure and to emotionally regulate and to work on that. I think they can change if you're with someone more secure. Like I definitely find that when I've dated secure people. So to give context as well, like we're all in different stages. So like Emily mentioned, she's in a long loving relationship. I'm kind of in like the dating phase of my life, like going out, having fun and like the early stages of dating, and Jake's very like single, work on himself.
Why are you laughing? That's not funny.
Jake is very single, heavy,
Very single.
heavy on that.
Jake is
La-
lost.
ladies listening to the podcast.
Oh my
Jake
god, this
Late
is Jake's
bloomer,
dating
I think.
application. I love it.
Late bloomer is the correct term, thank you guys.
Everyone, yeah,
Oh, I
Jake's
love it.
single, doing the work. But yeah, being in the early stages of dating, I feel like it comes up a lot. But recently, having dated people that were more on the secure end, it's crazy how like I will still get triggered, but I feel a lot more like a normal person, a normal level. And the triggers are like, yes, I get triggered, but it's nowhere near this level of anxiety where I was on the floor shaking, like compared to this previous guy. So that's what I would say is I feel like I have done work on myself over time to make it a bit better, but I also think it depends on your partner and what they bring out in you. But what do we think?
100%. And like that's not to say as well, like I'm the disorganized one here and I've managed to find myself in a relationship. It's not to say that you have to change your attachment style if you want to ever be happy and you want to be successful and want to have good friendships and all the rest of it. It's very much just learning how to manage your own symptoms of whatever attachment style you have so that you can be happy and fulfilled. So yeah, completely agree, Nina. And RIP Jake's dating life. Sorry about that.
Well, I'm in control of the editing here, so I will cut out what's necessary.
Yeah, that's true actually. Honestly, I do think it's such a difficult thing because you have to dig so deep. And like Jake said, it is something that happens in literally the first minutes, hours, days of your life through to kind of present day where you're exploring whatever types of friendships and kind of relationships you might want to have. So you have to be able to be very kind of reflective and honest with yourself about what would I benefit from if I changed that attachment style. Like if I did the work and I figured it out and I accomplished it, what would it actually do for me? Would it make me unhappy, or would it actually mean that I could take a step towards being ready to go on dates again or whatever it might be. So yeah, it is huge, and yes, it can be changed in my opinion, but does it need to be? I don't know. That's up to you.
Yeah, I'd say just to contextualize why I'm single, it's not it's not through what's it called? Involuntary celibacy. It is a choice. Obviously, in my past relationship, I was anxious, and when Nina, you're talking about being you physically shaking, I had to go on medication just to control the anxiety that I had. And then 2 weeks after the breakup, I stopped, which kind of says a lot about it. Like I didn't need it anymore. And it just shows how it might not even be the worst behavior, but it's just the fact that all your emotional safety is in someone else is just not a comfortable feeling. And it's not an overall healthy feeling. Again, it's a spectrum as well. You can still lean slightly anxious or slightly avoidant, and you can have a fruitful relationship if you are still within an insecure attachment style. Just this awareness definitely helps you. But with me being single, which I'm just rubbing in,
Jake, are you single? Sorry, just to check. Are you
I'm
single?
actually
Or...
I'm actually dating quite heavily at the moment.
Oh right. Oh right. Well,
Yeah.
that's an update.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 dates a decade, something like that. It's pretty strong numbers actually.
Decade.
But
Behave.
behave.
We believed you then.
I know, yeah.
It's
Oh
probably
no,
not far
I
from the
didn't.
truth,
Nina
actually.
did. Nina
Oh, sorry,
was like,
I'm
"Wow."
I'm just gullible.
Leave your socials in the comments, ladies. He's going to be checking. He's going to be quality checking the
It will
socials.
be, if you get a follow from Demi Stoic, it isn't a marketing email.
Oh, cheeky
on.
plug on the first episode as well.
Bring it back, the train back on the tracks. Obviously, my thing with being anxious was I didn't feel safe within my emotions, or I didn't feel safe in expressing my authentic emotions. So this time being single allowed me to just be with myself and start to understand how I could self-regulate my emotions rather than putting it on a huge pedestal and being, you fix me. Because it's something that we do unconsciously as anxious people. We put them on a pedestal. And in that sense, it also puts a lot of pressure on the avoidant where, okay, my partner is holding me to such a high standard. I've got to maintain this all day, every day. Otherwise, if I drop that slightly, they're going to go into an anxious spiral. So it goes both ways where there is a lot of empathy that comes from the avoidant as well when you understand attachment theory better. But me being single has helped me to develop that more secureness within myself. And become more independent and sort of balance the scales that way. So when I do get into another relationship, I will be able to have a nice balance of I feel comfortable being vulnerable, which is the more anxious side, but I also feel comfortable in my own self-independence and understanding my own emotions that way, or self-regulation. And then just to touch on whether your attachment styles can change, they definitely can, because in the literature, neuroplasticity is the mechanism where our brain will rewire neurons. They get used more and then remove neural pathways which don't get used. That's a very basic explanation. But the same thing applies with attachment styles. That is why all of us are able to grow. That's why we're able to learn new skills even way past our brain stops growing at 25. So with that mechanism as like a backbone, it applies to mindset shifts, to literal physiological reactions to when you're approaching someone who's giving you a bit of avoidant behavior. But again, picking a secure partner is great, but there is work you can do within yourself to balance the scales out.
I like that. Bit of science as well, baby.
Science.
A bit of science, bitch. Let me throw an idea out there because I think this could be quite an interesting one. With regards to attachment styles, like which one would you say? Because you two are the singletons here, so of course I wouldn't know what a dating app even is these days. Which attachment style do you think shows up the most when it comes to like modern dating and like having conversations on dating apps? Like, can you pick up any signals? Give me maybe a percentage split if you can.
I have something to say on this. Sorry to jump in.
Nina's like, let's go.
I'm like,
let me cook.
immediately, yes, because there's this book I just read that was harping on to Emily and Jake about it. It's called Attached. And it's basically all about, attachment theory. It talks about the different attachment styles. And it said that, I think it quoted like a survey, that statistically most people on dating apps are avoidant. And I found that really interesting. Yeah. And it
That does make
explained it.
sense.
and explained it. And it was like, obviously, because secure people are more likely to like be in less relationships throughout their life because, like, for example, like the first one or two or three, like they might settle down and find their person. Whereas someone that is anxious or avoidant, they're a lot more prone to like things not working out basically because they're like in that trap, or like avoidant people might just break things off at the first like warning sign, that kind of thing. So they all end up more in the dating pool. And then yeah, like I said, avoidance will usually also, there was kind of part of this that avoidance will usually not date each other. Like they'll usually be more focused on anxious people. But anxious people could still be in a relationship with like secure people. So statistically, the avoidant people are more likely to go on more dates and be single more often because of that reason, that they like pull away and try and find something else when the going gets tough. So that's what this book said, which I thought was really interesting. And if it's true, it explains so much for me because
Yeah.
I've mostly used dating apps.
That's mad, isn't it? Because, like, then what, on the flip side, what does that leave outside, the people who are single, who aren't using dating apps? How does that set them up for any kind of level of success, I guess, well, I don't know, all the avoidant people are busy disagreeing with each other and kicking each other out and being
Fucking off.
matched or whatever on apps. So it's so interesting. It just kind of feels like then if, avoidance and avoidance are getting together on dating apps, is that really, you know, um, is that again equally setting themselves up for success? I don't even know. That's such a like interesting stat.
Before you said that, Nina, um, I initially thought it's more avoidance on dating apps. Even if you are an anxious person, you have to pretend you're avoidant on dating apps. Um,
Mm.
and like when you're talking about outside of it as well, like getting into the dating pool, for me, um, it's trying to like find yourself in more in-person environments, which is obviously hard to do. But I
Mm.
think maybe that style of dating apps, of messaging, and then leaving for 8 hours is an avoidant
Mm.
person's dream because they can go,
Yeah,
right,
100%.
I'm ready for some intimacy. Oh, I want nothing to do with them. And they can just chop and choose between that. And it's quite easy for them. Whereas an anxious person on a dating app, they might feel like, oh my God, no one likes me on this app. And then maybe they are matching someone with anxious attachment as well. Obviously, it might be the same magnetism will just bump them apart. But because you're all pretending to be avoidant, how are you supposed to build a connection on these apps? And again, there's a whole reason why, because it's a numbers game. It could be matching with 1,000 people. You're not going to invest in every person within that. But yeah, that was my initial gut reaction. And then when you explain it, Nina, with the book, I was like, that definitely cements it from my experience.
Yeah, probably the people that aren't on dating apps, it makes more sense if they're more likely to be secure, because obviously people with insecure attachment might then be more inclined to try and find a relationship, whereas a secure person might just be like secure in themselves and just be living their life and open to love
That's what
when it
I'm
hits
doing.
them. Does that mean you're secure, Jake? First I've heard.
Yeah.
I was going to say
You
as
say
well, like, Lord knows how I've managed to
Apparently.
end up in a relationship then, because there's not a sense of security anywhere to be seen.
Tell us about how it manifests in your relationship and like what your partner's type is, Emily.
Let's say that we're both not secure. That's for sure. I think, like, in a way, it's quite sweet. I really hope gives people a sense of faith. I think with me being disorganized and my partner not necessarily being the same as me, but also not necessarily being secure, I think there's a sense of kind of camaraderie that comes with that. Like, you kind of both realize that your attachment style is inconsistent. You're not the same. You both want different things at different times. I might have a really anxious day because I'm feeling really clingy. I'm needing lots of support and kind of intimacy, emotional intimacy. I feeling, especially avoidant because he's had, I don't know, a rough week and he just needs me to get out of his face. That obviously is kind of a conflict of interest there. Yeah, for both of us on the whole, I would say we both have a sense of anxiety around our attachment. There's a really classically embarrassing anecdote I could give you here about how we weren't even properly dating, but we'd kind of been just seeing each other at the pub and stuff, and we were a bit interested in each other. We met when I was working at the pub, which was lucky. And
True love.
true love indeed. We were 2-3 weeks in, and I felt like he was pulling himself away, and I was so nervous that I was going to lose this. We'd barely knew each other, and I called his housemate, and I was literally like, is he interested or what? Like, hello, do we know where he is? He hasn't replied to me in, I think it was like half a day. I was like, I got a text from him last night, but it's now like 2 p.m. and I don't even know where he is and what's going on and like, you know, like who we are and like what we are. And like just poured my heart out to this poor guy who is now a very good friend of mine. Shout out to him. And oh my God, so embarrassed. Like the flatmate, now my friend, brings it up all the time. He's like, Emily, babes, that was cringy. But that was me showing my anxiety, my anxious attachment to him already. We lean on each other, both knowing that we're not secure, but it also manifests itself in quite funny ways as well. And we laugh about it now. So if you find the right person, you'll be able to laugh about it, is what I'm trying to say.
Do you feel like, Emily, it's got more secure over time in your relationship? Like, how would you say it is now? Because obviously, like, in the early stages, everything is so uncertain. Like, you just don't know. So,
It's
like, how
so
is it now?
true.
Is it better?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it will. We've been together 3 years today, actually. Whoop, whoop.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
That's big.
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and so much has happened over that 3 years as well. So yeah, you go through various different things, good things, bad things, whatever. You learn how to speak each other's language, essentially, with regards to attachment. Even if you're feeling a bit avoidant and he's, you know, feeling anxious, you know, maybe I can lean into my anxious for a bit and, you know, go and give him a cuddle and go and sit and talk it out or whatever that might be. So yeah, it's definitely evolved. I wouldn't consider myself secure in any means now, but there's definitely been growth, which is nice.
I like the point where you said it sparks in dating. And I think it acts in like an arc where like it manifests and disappears, then manifests really intensely. So with me, I have another anecdote as well where I saw obviously my now ex when we were dating. I went to Gran Canaria with my friends. So I went on holiday with the lads and we're going back to the airport and it was a similar situation of just like I can't remember the reason why, but I was just so anxious and I was like, oh my God, I'm only just met this person like 2 weeks ago, what is going on? And in the airport I called and just went, oh, I don't think this is gonna work because I can't remember why. I was just like, I'm just not sure if I'm feeling it. Put the phone down and I was like, oh, well done, like yeah, you weren't feeling that good, I'm glad you did that. And then like 5 minutes later I was like, why did I just do that? Because it flared up again. Like the anxious attachment was like, I need this person's approval. And obviously, like I'm trying to gain, obviously, a romantic partner. So I call her back 5 minutes later and went, oh my God, I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that. That was just me. Teehee. And surprisingly, she was like, oh yeah, that's fine. Well, she was fuming, understandably. I had to like grovel for about half an hour. And then it was like
Only
okay in the
half
rest
an
of the airport.
hour? That's
I know.
impressive.
That's
But
not
that's
a
the thing,
lot.
like I'm saying that about myself, and it shows that you act so irrationally when you're going through an anxious phase because you might rebel against it and go, I'm getting it. Well, maybe I'm disorganized in that sense, but you might rebel against it or just jump at them with everything because you're trying to make yourself feel more secure in that moment. But again, it's not they're going to make you feel secure. They're going to soothe you temporarily. The only time you will feel secure is internally, which is obviously when you say insecure, I say like within, it only gets solved within. And I've said this to a few people on nights out and smoking areas who've asked for unsolicited advice, but that's what would work for me. It'll spark when you're dating, and then when you're in the honeymoon phase, that's when you're probably both like, ah, this is great, everything is perfect, because you're probably both soothing each other at the same time. So like an avoidant person loves an anxious person because they give them what they were lacking when they were younger. So if they're not able to feel safe in expressing their emotions, and they have someone saying, "Oh my God, I love you, I adore you, you're the best thing ever," it's like, wow, I finally feel validated in my emotions. So then they'll feel more in the honeymoon phase. And with an anxious person, they were like, I really admire this person's independence, their strength, and they're choosing me. Like, that's so cool. Like, I must be valued too. So you think it's kind of like, oh, just plug each other's holes, not physically, but metaphorically. And then when it gets later on into the relationship, it ends up being from like, I don't want to use plug again, but it becomes a trigger rather than something that's healing. So that's when you start getting into this dance. Jessica Baum again said it's like an analogy of an octopus and a turtle. So the octopus will have as multiple tentacles. This is me, Nina, and Emily. And then the avoidant is the turtle. So when the anxious person is reaching out more and more, the turtle kind of goes deeper and deeper into their shell. So that's how it becomes from being really flared in dating to having a really intense connection to then completely spiraling out of control. But if you have this awareness in like these conversations you've had, Emily, with your partner, that can stop you going downwards in a spiral and then start growing upwards together. It's not impossible to heal in a relationship, but you can get triggered while you're still in it. So again, having that awareness and having those conversations with your partner is definitely the best way to grow within a relationship. It's not just do what me and Nina did and get the fuck out, or just get out, and then you'll start healing that sense because I'm building my independence again. You can still do it in a relationship, and again, it doesn't have to be perfect. But if you both have the conversation of, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just feeling a bit avoidant today, or I'm feeling a bit anxious. I know that you love me, but I feel like I need this reassurance. And it's a blend of soothing your anxiety at the time, but understanding that this isn't like a fix or solution. I'm still growing, I'm still learning, but obviously we all make mistakes, which is why like we are on the Trauma Agora. Like we're having these conversations, we've all made these mistakes, and that's why it turns into these hilarious stories of just doing wild behavior. Have you got any stories, Nina, of any?
Yes. Yes, I do. I mean, I think we've all been there. And what you said about you were like, oh, maybe this is more of like the disorganized style. I think actually it's very common in anxious to like push people away as a process behavior because you're trying to protect yourself. Emily sent us a reel about it the other day where it was something like when you say like it's over and you're breaking up, but you're anxiously attached, and then you're still finding ways to carry on the conversation, and you're still saying, "Oh, but I just don't understand how." Like this and this and this.
Yeah, just like making any excuse to keep the conversation going. Like, okay, fine.
I just think it's funny that yeah, and that's so been all of us. I think it's definitely been me.
100%.
In terms of a specific story, I mean, I talked about that ex where I was literally like shaky on the floor, but I do have one. It's actually not about me for once. I have one where a guy I was seeing, I think, was like either anxiously attached or just crazy. I don't know. Let's decide what we think from the story.
Yeah,
that's another one for the comments, I think.
Yeah, I was seeing a guy. I ended it. I was only seeing him for like a couple of months, something like that. Not that long, 2-3 months. But he kept messaging me, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to block this guy because he just keeps messaging me. So then I blocked him, and then literally 2 minutes later, I start getting calls from no caller ID, and I'm not kidding you. He would ring, and then it would stop ringing, and then he would literally start ringing again, like 2 seconds later. Like it was just constant like this for maybe like half an hour or so. Then, after about half an hour, which is the time it takes to drive from Salford to Manchester to Warrington, where I live, I hear a knock on the door. And I'm home alone. Bear in mind, I'm home alone. This was a few years ago. This was maybe like 5 or 6 years ago now. And obviously it's him. So like I look through the window of the door and it's him. He stood there. And I'm like, oh, great. And then he's like, I know you're in there. I know you're in there. Like, I just want to talk. Like, I don't want to end things like this and that, going crazy. Then he goes to his car and like pretends to rev his car engine. So I think he's left. So I come out and I'm like looking at the window and he's like, I knew you were in. Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy.
No,
and then
I'm not being funny. That's not That's not an attachment style, guys. That's a
just
serial killer.
someone insane. That's just someone insane, I think. But he
That's
was
mad.
anxiously attached. But like, I think this is, I'm not promoting this behavior, but that was probably one of the craziest things that happened. And actually, he went and he was still lurking in like a nearby street when I thought he left. And my dad actually, who had never met this guy, was driving around the streets to check and confronted him. And then after that, I never heard from him
What?
again. So yeah, that's a light story from me. I don't know.
Good
Yeah,
trauma.
he was anxious, but I think that was something else. That was not the anxious attachment. That was just the next level.
That just sounds,
Next
like
level toxic.
anxiety, anxious attachment times 1,000 with a bunch of other kind of deep-rooted issues that have made him act in the way that he acted. That is, girl, that is
Yeah.
concerning. That is very concerning.
It
But
was a lot.
listen, Trauma Agora, dropping the latest traumas.
We love it. We love
We
it.
love to see it.
We love it.
I think there's so many other things I would love to talk about, because I think I'm just
Me
thinking
too.
about kind of anxious attachment and like rejection sensitivity as well. I think there's a whole
ADHD.
connection there. Yeah, 100%. And again, just
Mm.
like different people with different experiences of, like women, obviously, and those people that have periods, like experiencing different versions of attachment styles at different times of the month, all that kind of stuff. I think there's so much we could talk about. Thank you so much for listening to the first ever world exclusive episode of Trauma Agora. Thank you, Nina, Jake, for giving us all of the traumas, all of the insights, all of the scary stories, to be quite frank with you. Yeah, and look, if you want us to talk about anything and expand on anything that we've discussed in our lovely first episode, leave a little comment for us, send us a little note. We'd be very happy to hear it. And we will see you for more on episode 2. Girls and boys, thank you.
And a
See
special
ya.
thanks to our exes for traumatizing us.
Yay.
Yeah. Special thanks to our
them.
exes for the content. Appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
Nina.
Yeah, sorry. All right, that's it for today's chaos. Thanks for joining us in the Trauma Agora.
If you can relate, make sure you hit follow, send it to your mate who really needs to hear it, and come and find us on socials for some extra nonsense.
We'll be back in 2 weeks. Same vibes, new existential crisis. See you then.